When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to episode 20 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. Today on the podcast, we have Jennifer Luney and Suad Bejtović. I got that right for all of you who I was worried about going into this podcast that I was going to say it correctly. I got it right. So there you go. Jennifer is a private wealth advisor for U.S. Bank and an arts supporter. Jennifer is the Treasurer and Director of Finance for the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco, serving with 9 total board members. When she's not serving and consulting her clients, she's helping to provide opportunities for local visual artists to promote their work and cultivate public appreciation for the visual arts. Suad is a professional photographer and men's custom clothier from Sarajevo, Bosnia, and lives with his wife Jennifer in Frisco, Texas. When he's not working as the best-dressed photographer in the world, he serves as the president of the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco, on the board of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, as well as the public art board for the city of Frisco. Jennifer and Suad, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you.
We're excited to be here.
We're happy to be here. That's a great introduction. Did you write that yourself?
No,
I did not. I cannot take credit for that. It may have been handed to me from someone. I don't know who.
Okay. Whoever did it did a great job.
Thank you,
All right.
honey.
Well, and you're here, as I expected, very well dressed. Me, on the other hand, I have on a fleece and a flannel.
You're more sports.
I'm very sporty, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
I'd be
dressed
sporty
for the
spice if I
weather,
was a Spice
but
Girl today.
You are dressed for the weather. It is chilly today, and we got some wind up here in Texas.
Right, but as soon as you step into the sun, it'll be like 80 degrees, so you'll have to start shedding some layers.
And that's why you do layers in Texas, especially in the springtime, right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right, so let's get into it. Jennifer, we'll start with you. Tell us where you're from and how you grew up.
Oh my goodness! So I'm that's a difficult question. No, I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Got to Texas, as fast as I could. My family moved us to South Texas, Houston area in 1981.
Okay.
Graduated high school there. Went to college at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Graduated, lived in Austin for a little while. Had our first son, Tyler, and then moved to Missouri for a little bit. Finally to Dallas in 1998. Had my daughter Madison in the year 2000.
The year 2000. Who remembers Conan O'Brien over here?
Y2K.
Exactly. Been in the banking industry since 1996. Fell into banking accidentally in the marketing department of a bank. My background is in advertising.
Oh, wow.
And just grew up in the licensing side of banking and private wealth. It was just a great fit as a relationship manager, the way I connect with people. But I've been in the Dallas area for a very long time, Frisco, since 2001. I think we built our first house. I went through a divorce and then eventually met Suad through business networking. It was actually a networking group I started back in 2007, and I was away from for about 2 years. And then one of the banks that I worked for just moved me close enough to where I could go to that networking group again, and I met him and accidentally again. So yeah, networking, you can definitely fall in love.
There are no mistakes, only happy accidents, right? That's what Bob Ross says.
Yes.
So
There you go.
That's kind of through one of those happy accidents we ended up meeting.
It's funny that you, of all people, would bring up Bob Ross, right?
Yes.
Of the Visual Arts Guild.
Yeah.
So when I met him, he had his men's custom clothing business, J. Hilburn, based right here in Dallas. But I saw his photography. I have a background in photography. That's too long of a story to go into. But I saw his hobby as photography that he's been practicing for many, many years. It was beautiful. Fine arts photography just came from the heart. I just said, why don't you do that for a living? And he listened to me. I can't believe it. No.
I do everything she says I should do.
That was probably 2014.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we married a year later. We're the first wedding to ever take place at the Frisco Chamber of Commerce.
So far, the only, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. And now he's on the board. He's won a few awards there. I'll let him speak to that. But I did make him move to Frisco because I'm the one that had the kiddos there. So kind of created the Frisco monster that we have here today, and I'm happy about that. And then went through a couple of different mergers and acquisitions in banking, corporate banking. And I actually was approached by U.S. Bank and asked to be the first private wealth advisor hire for the state of Texas. And they're emerging into the state. So very happy to be here today. And with my leadership class 25 graduate from Leadership Frisco.
Best class ever.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can get by that. I was in leadership class 22. And we say we're the best dressed class ever. Hey. And so far, I have not received a challenge from any other class. Yeah. Every class says that they're best dressed, best class ever, and they always kind of go back and forth on that. Everybody knows that we're the best dressed class ever, so I'm happy with that.
All right. Well, we'll just have to look at the group pictures and make that determination, I guess.
They had some really great dresses. Mark Hill, Sadaf.
Sadaf. Corley, Randolph, and a bunch of other really well-dressed folks.
Yeah.
All right. And so you started your photography business because she told you to do it.
As a business, yes. I've been an amateur photographer, hobby photographer, since I was 11 years old when my dad, who was kind of like the designated photographer in my family, he gave me my first camera as a gift for my 11th birthday. So I was always interested in that. He had a lot of friends who had dark rooms, so I would get in and see how the magic happens. Obviously, that's like just short of magic.
In darkroom, you're going way back in the day, like actual film.
Absolutely, yeah.
Still does film.
I actually still shoot a lot of film, especially for my fine art photographs. We went on several trips together, most recently to Big Bend National Park last year.
It's beautiful.
Brought at least 2 film cameras that I had at the time, plus my digital. So, I trust both sides of the process, and then I kind of decide what ends up working out best. But what pays the bills on a regular basis is a little bit more commercial, I suppose. I tell people that I like to shoot people. I don't always do, but when I do, I shoot them in our living room, which was redesigned into a studio. So I do headshots and portraits. I do a lot of events all around Frisco. I've done family portraits, senior portraits. I've even done cockpits of airplane simulators for magazines. It's like I do a little bit of everything.
Well, but so you have a pretty interesting background. Tell us where you grew up and how you ended up over here in the United States.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I was born and raised in Sarajevo, Bosnia. I actually later this year, it'll be exactly halfway. I will have lived in the U.S. for as long as I lived in Bosnia before coming over here. I came in 97, so right after the war in Bosnia, I always kind of have to remind people, what was going on in that part of the world in early 90s and mid 90s. So I came here with my wife at the time and my daughter. We wanted to kind of give her some more opportunities here. We actually came here as refugees with the refugee visa and kind of started literally from scratch from a couple of suitcases that we brought from home. I've spent a lot of time in corporate America for various companies, and then started my clothing business, as you mentioned earlier, in 2013. That's how I met Jennifer in 2014, and then since 2014, I've been doing that and photography kind of side by side.
Okay. Yeah, I like dress the man and then take his headshot.
Yeah, or take a picture at his wedding or something like that. Yeah, it happens.
But it's interesting because we had the owners from the Aussie Grind in here a few episodes ago, and they were talking about their immigration process. Way different, it sounds like, than yours. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you immigrated?
So I was 26. It took us about a year and a half to get the appropriate paperwork, several interviews, background checks, fingerprint process, like all of that stuff. It took quite a little while. Then once we got here, we had to prove residence for about a year to apply for a green card, and then we did. I eventually became a U.S. citizen in 2004, so about 7 years after I came in here.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you two meet at a networking event,
Right.
fall head over heels in love.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you make him start his own business.
Sure. He already had a home-based business in J. Hilburn, but this was a little bit different.
I like to tell people I have 2 part-time jobs, because you do a little bit of one and a little bit of the other, and the schedule is a little bit more flexible. So it's convenient that way.
His fine art photography is really what hit home. And eventually we ran into at Frisco Arts in the Square, the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. I'd been here with the kids in soccer and football and band and baseball, but neither were in that side of arts. They were in musical arts.
Sure.
And we'd been to plenty of choir and band and music events, but we just ran into the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco in 2018.
That sounds about right. Yeah, 17 or 18.
And then he ended up submitting a piece, which took a while. You should submit a piece. Artists are putting their heart on the wall when they present anything at a gallery or a showing or art pop-up, whatever it might be at art festival. And this was for contest at the Frisco Discovery Center. And in the very first show, he won first place in photography. And I was like, done deal. We're in. It was a fantastic opportunity.
Well, so let me ask you about that, Suad. Putting your art up for everyone to not just see, but judge and critique, that is a part of your soul. So where was that fear and how did you deal with it and finally overcome it to put it on the wall?
So most of my photography up to that point has been, through different trips that I've had the opportunity to take. A few of those trips were with a couple of friends of mine who I actually met online playing video games many years ago. And then we kind of talked a little bit, decided did we have the same passion for photography, and decided to meet on a trip. And we went to Utah, to Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon, and a couple of other trips like that. Yosemite was one of them. And so we had the opportunity to be at some of the most beautiful places on the planet, right? And so I sometimes say that there are some of those places where you can't take a bad picture. You just, turn the camera on and push the button, and it's just gorgeous wherever you point it out. And so those pictures were just kind of for me. It was just something fun to do, and I enjoyed making those images. But it took many years before I even considered sharing it with anybody. And so, yes, when we heard about Visual Arts Guild of Frisco, and that they actually have exhibits and competitions and awards and all of that, then yeah, I did enter some of them and won some at the prizes. Won some of the prizes that were at those competitions. But I always tell our artists that we deal with on a regular basis, some of them will always end up being disappointed that they didn't get into some of the shows. And I'll always look around and say, I'm not in this show either. It's hard to get in some of our shows. We sometimes have like 100 submissions for one of our galleries that may only accept around 20 or 22 pieces, right? So we'll have to disappoint a lot of people. And that doesn't mean that your art is not valuable. It just means that whoever was selecting the show, and we usually have multiple people doing that, at least 3, picked something else at that particular, out of those particular pieces. So it's hard being on that other side. But it's also really sweet when not only you get in the show, but whoever's responsible for handing out awards
picks yours,
picks your art to win an award. So that's a great feeling. So the life of an artist happens between those highs and those lows. Sure.
So was that your first kind of foray into the art world whenever you first submitted your photographs?
Yeah. Yes. I don't think I've shown any of those pieces anywhere else. I just had them, some of them were framed just in my house. I think that was the first show that I submitted any of that work. The one that Jennifer mentioned that I won the award. I won that same award at that same show the next year. And then since then I haven't won a whole lot. So,
but he also got so busy becoming a member of the board,
Sure.
that he was serving as the communications director for a little while. And then we'll have to go into the change at Visual Arts Guild of Frisco and how we became on the board together. But there were other opportunities that he entered in different organizations. There's many art guilds, so to speak, that do competitions in the general area in Dallas and Fort Worth, Allen, Louisville, Prosper.
We have a
McKinney.
lot of members who are members of multiple organizations like that, especially around Frisco. You know, you have a very active community in Plano and Allen, and Louisville, and a few other places.
And so he's been in a few of those, but he's also been rejected from a few of those. And it's not your work. It just didn't score high enough for whoever the judge was for that particular show. So you're talking about 1 to 3 people's opinion out of hundreds of thousands of people in the area. But once you get on the wall, that's already a win, right? You're on the wall, whether that piece is for sale or not. You're already on the wall for people to see. And then if it is a juried show, you have an opportunity to win a prize. It could be just a ribbon, or it could actually be a cash prize.
But I would imagine, I mean, y'all see several artists, many of whom are probably kind of new to the art world like you were when you first had your first submission, and they don't get picked, and they get down and they get dejected, and they just quit showing or quit trying. So what do you see in the artists that keep after it as opposed to the ones who say, this isn't for me, I can't continue to put myself out there and get rejected, quote unquote?
Yeah, we've definitely seen both ends of that. There have been artists who say, you know, I don't know what you guys are doing over there, but I don't want any part of that because you didn't put my piece in. You know, some are not as nice about it as others. And, you know, like I just mentioned, as an artist, I can understand being disappointed. But the ones that do persist, and, you know, they may understand that if this piece didn't get into this show, maybe this other piece will get in this other show. And then the key thing is to keep working. So a lot of our artists have a house full of art because they just do it for their own pleasure. For
Therapy.
It's who they are.
Sometimes
it's who
therapy,
they are.
though.
Yeah, they have
Truly.
to. They're not making a piece specifically for a competition and putting all the eggs in that basket, and then when they don't get in, they get disappointed. It's more like, hey, I have all this art. I don't know what to do with it. It's kind of taking over my house. Maybe they'll like this one. Maybe they'll like this one the next time. You know, so I think a lot of artists have an understanding that, yes, you're not going to get into every show. But as long as there are opportunities, you need to be trying to take advantage of them.
One of the things I feel like Visual Arts Guild of Frisco does well is we have a monthly meeting for our artists. We have Meet the Artists at all of our exhibitions because the artists need a collective. Just like a small business owner or entrepreneur, that artist is on an island on their own creating. They might have a supportive family, but that's not the person that's painting or taking the picture or doing the mixed media or creating the sculpture. That's just the artist and their artwork. And so having a collective of other artists, whether they be the same medium or not, is a supportive atmosphere. And I feel like that can bring them out of any type of disappointment. And if they will attend the shows, even if they didn't get in, they can see the work that was picked, and it might challenge them. It might have them decide they want to try a different medium. Might take them out of their shell or comfort zone to say, I've never done photography, and I really like what got on the wall, and I want to try that. And so some want to do photography, some want to do painting of all different mediums, and some want to do a mixture of all of those, and we certainly want them to. But I feel like if you meet other artists that are right around your level and a little bit higher even level, some professional, some selling internationally, it inspires you. And all of those artists want to support all artists. And so they get together and they have their own meetings. Some of them have joint shows together. We have 3 that are going into a show together at the One River School here in Frisco. A lot of them will book a space to do joint shows because that will help mitigate the cost for an individual solo show.
When you're an artist, you usually live in your own world, in your own bubble. And if you're not exposed to what your other artists' friends are doing, then you tend to stay in that bubble. And so we provide opportunities for artists to meet and talk and collaborate and share best practices and like she said, see what art they create. And I always feel very strongly that the selection of any of our shows is solid. It can stand up to scrutiny. So if you come up and say, hey, you didn't pick any of my shows,
pieces for the show,
any of my pieces for the show, I'll show you around and say, okay, which one of these do you think we should take down to put yours up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had quite those conversations. I think that's a little bit extreme, but I feel strongly that our selections really do have a lot of quality, and we've had multiple compliments from our jurors, from our visitors, from our partners, from supporters of all kinds, that we are putting really good quality art up there in our shows.
And I want to just say one more thing about that, because we are limited by the space that we have available. We're not a huge gallery where we can do 60 and 70 foot that'd be a sculpture, pieces, these 60-inch pieces and so forth. So weight and space are part of, so as long as you're fitting the parameter of our perspective for the call for art, if it says that the piece can be no larger than 36 inches, you may have an amazing piece that's 48 on one side. We just can't fit that in the show. Right. It could be amazing. But we can at the Frisco Discovery Center. We can do much larger pieces, but we're always looking for opportunities to showcase artists of any size and of any medium.
Well, so I want to go back to this this kind of group mentality, the providing the venue for artists to talk and to get out of their bubbles. Sounds very similar to like a mastermind group, right? Which I'm a huge fan of, and pulls you out of your own head to say, hey, look, there's other ways to do these things. There's other people who've already had some of these problems or run up against these issues that you can talk to, and you don't have to go butt your head against a wall.
Absolutely.
And what have you seen the value of that be for specific artists?
So we bring in subject matter experts to our monthly meetings, and we bring in artists from all over the area. You don't have to live, work, and play in Frisco to be an artist. The Visual Arts Guild of Frisco got its name in 2001, so we're not changing the name because we're supporting Frisco and Frisco artists, but any local artist can come in. And I feel like if we're bringing in quality speakers, they could be gallery owners. We've had intellectual property attorneys. We've had social media and marketing experts teaching artists the business side of art as well as the art of business. And if you want to actually have a business as an artist, whatever your medium might be, it's totally up to the amount of space you give yourself. Do you want to do this part-time as a hobbyist? Do you have a strategy and a goal, or do you have a business plan? We've brought that information in. We've brought in artists that do dream boards, right, for that type of planning for creatives. And I feel like we bring all of that together, and it's what they make of it. It's what they use. It's that whole, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Right. The training and development that we're trying to provide, as well as the opportunities to showcase and meet other artists, is, I think, tremendous. Go ahead.
We have a lot of artists who haven't met another artist, and they may have seen their work and admired their work. And then they come up to one of our events, and they were like, oh, you're that person. I love your work. And they start talking about it. And to me, like that's the most important part that happens there. The artists just meeting other artists. And then, they decide to do shows together. They decide to collaborate together. They decide to, share their connections with each other and so on. So it's kind of like a networking group for artists. Our meetings are structured. We have the guest speaker. We have some introductions and some general business. But for the most part, the meat of the meeting happens right before and right after, when people are just kind of getting together. One feature that we added to our monthly meetings last year is that every artist can bring a small to medium piece for an audience award that we call Artist of the Month. So not necessarily juried or anything like that, but everybody who's there, whether they're an artist or a guest or a family member, gets a vote, gets to vote for one favorite piece of art. At a recent meeting, we ran out of letters in the alphabet, so we had to do like AA,
Right. Start doubling them up.
Yeah,
Right.
Excel spreadsheet kind of style, when you get to the column Z. So a lot of people bring their art for other people to see and to see other people's art. And yes, we always pick one that got the most votes, but sometimes the votes are really close. You have like 2 or 3 pieces that everybody loves. And from what I've gathered, and I don't oversee the votes, Jennifer does, but almost nobody votes for themselves, right? Because technically, yeah, you could vote for your own piece. Hardly anybody does that,
Right.
because they all see these other artists and all this other work that was there, that they feel strongly about. So to me, that's the most important part.
And I feel like that, along with what we're doing in the organization, especially for emerging artists, gets them used to what is out there in the real world. Let's say we are real world. We're nonprofit, right? No one's paid in our organization. We're fully volunteer board and full of volunteers. But having that voting during the month is starting the process of learning that there are other pieces that, for whatever reason, these people here tonight chose that one. We don't tell them you got 5 votes or 6 votes out of 20. We're not going to go that deep.
Right.
But that's first entry. And then we put them on our website. We put them on our Instagram. We share, and we're explaining and educating that you've got to now promote the fact that you are Artist of the Month. You can take a picture of the art that you brought in, even if it didn't get voted number 1. This is the art piece that I brought in today for everybody, and post it. Because we're visual arts, and people need to see you visually, and not everyone's going to be able to come to the gallery if you're lucky enough to get into the gallery or to the show on the wall, because that piece just was number 26 and we only had room for 25. So it's a learning process. The other piece of the learning process is some of our shows have, in order to help support the nonprofit, they have a commission. So for instance, at Sweetwater's Coffee Shop in Frisco, we have our wall of art. It's our very first partner gallery. And they will, when we sell a piece, because all the pieces are for sale and can be picked up at the end of the exhibition, which is usually about 5 to 7 weeks, there's a 15% commission to VAGF, 85% goes to the artist. So we're also training them how to price and value their piece if there's a certain amount they need to get back from it. Just like I'm going to sell this cup and how much went into the purchasing of all the pieces and the water that went into it, how much do I need to get out as a business owner to stay alive, to stay in the black?
What's your profit margin? So it sounds like you guys are, yes, you're providing them a place to display their art and helping them learn essentially kind of how to compete, how to grow as an artist, but also how to make that a sustainable living. You're teaching them marketing. Hey, guys, you can't just rely on your art. You actually have to get out there and make people see it.
Yes.
You're teaching them business plans. You're teaching them how to run a business. You're teaching them the economics of a business, all things that I was never taught. I'm a business owner, right? I was never taught any of those. Those are all things I had to go figure out. Right. Some of it's common sense, but a lot of it's not. And so a lot of the entrepreneurs that we've had on here have had none of that experience. And the business owners, tend to just kind of figure it out as they go. So to have that platform to go learn those things, to try to figure out, okay, what will it take for me to be a sustainable artist? And maybe they look at it and they say, I can't. So this just needs to remain a hobby, and I'll continue to enter shows and whatnot. But for others that are maybe more talented or just better business people, they look at that and say, wait, I can actually make this work. And what other platforms are out there that do anything like this for artists? So
the organizations that are local, like ours, are either funded by membership, as we are. It's a donation membership. General donors, people who just love art and want to support artists, and grants, as well as for us, the sale of the actual art at an event.
And in some cases, submission fees for some of our competitions
Especially if they have a high cash purse.
Yes, most of them are free for members, but from time to time we ask people to pay a submission fee to get in some of the bigger competitions we have.
So one of our grants comes from the Frisco Arts Foundation. It's not a guaranteed grant every year. We have to apply for it, give our financials every year, and tell our story of what we've done to create impact for our community and bring heads and beds and staying overnight. And why are we coming to Frisco for entertainment,
it's
arts, culture?
From the hotel occupancy tax.
Yeah. Right. And we want to make sure that we're creating an impact and entertaining as well as informing the general community and bringing them to connect to art in a different way. So there are organizations in Allen Arts Alliance, the Louisville Arts Association, and the Louisville
Plano Arts Association,
Plano Arts Association,
McKinney Arts and Music Guild,
right? So a lot of cities have either their own art organization, art association, art board. Salina just created their art board in 2020, and just like our conversation before we started, they couldn't meet because of COVID. I think they had their first meeting a month ago, but that's great that they're starting their own public art board for the city of Salina and all the growth there. And so having a nonprofit and then the city and folks around the city supporting it is the only way we're going to be able to provide this for free or for a discount, but be of value to artists. To me, you can be any business owner, any type of entrepreneur, and come to our meeting and learn from our intellectual property attorney about branding, copywriting, all of that. That's very important.
Or a social media expert, or a number of people that we had speak.
Absolutely.
Well, so let's dive into that a little bit. I don't have much of an art background. I wouldn't know the first thing about what I was looking at if I went to one of your shows. Tell me this, why should people in the business community, why should entrepreneurs, why should others outside of the art world care and get involved in the arts?
Well, I think art is one of those things that enriches our lives, right? It's for a lot of people, it's not a life or death priority, right? You know, you have to take care of a lot of other needs before you can start thinking about art. But you know, art is what makes life worth living, right? It's something that inspires you, something that makes you feel good, or in some instances, it makes you question something. It provokes some kind of a thought, right? You know, art is capable of bringing out some of these emotions that we have inside, and it inspires different people in different ways. And so, you know, somebody may prefer photography, landscape photography like I do, or they may prefer some abstract paintings that some of our artists do, and they'll see something in there that maybe the artist didn't even see or expect to be there. So the art is something that kind of adds to life. It adds value to life. And a city that is focused on art, like Frisco is, and we want to promote that and make it even more so, they thrive in many different ways. I like to mention that in Frisco ISD, there are more students associated with the arts than with sports.
Wow.
Even though we're Sports City USA,
right?
We're trying to make
that.
it Art City USA.
Yeah, and that actually reminded me of another joke that I have around my head. You know, there's a lot of talk about smart cities. Well, you can't spell smart without art, right? You know, there has to be some art component there, and through my service on the public art board, I'm kind of finding out a little bit more about how City of Frisco is doing that, maintaining their public art collection, and how they're using it in different innovative or even interactive ways with the public. So that's a really important component if you want your city to be worth living in, right?
Well,
it's not just about you know, HEBs and other shops and restaurants and things like that. It's about something even more.
But HEB knew to incorporate art into their build. And so we actually have one of the bricks of art on their beautiful mosaic bench at the park.
That says VAGF.
That
you have to look for it really hard, but
it's
there.
art.
Yeah.
I feel like the board that you're on with the Brain Injury Network.
Brain Injury Network, yeah.
Art is therapy. Art is therapeutic. Writing, taking photos, painting, sculpting, using whatever mechanics of our body we can. We have an artist that doesn't have any hands. We have artists that paint with their feet. It's an overcoming. It's an inspiring. It's I've got to get what's inside out. Maybe just for myself or maybe for the world, because you know it's going to land on someone else. And I feel like art brings people together in many different ways. It can bring people from two different sides of the world to come together in an understanding, just on either a written word, a song, or a painting. It invokes something. As a matter of fact, one of our awards at all of our receptions, our larger juried receptions, we have an Art That Speaks to Me award. We have the juror who is art educated in the arts world that gives the main prizes or juried prizes in our collections. But then we ask someone from the local community that's well known, maybe the city mayor, maybe the police chief, to come and get, even if they were an artist, but that's not what they're known for.
Right.
To come and give one award. They have to pick the piece, the only one piece that they get to pick that spoke to them the most. Maybe it made them feel an emotion that was happy. Perhaps it was sad. Perhaps it was a memory, good, bad, and different. But for whatever reason, this piece is speaking to them. It may not be the aesthetic for their home or office, and they may not be able to buy it and put on their wall, whether it's in their budget or not. But it spoke to them in some way, and they felt like it garnered the award. It should win the award. And so to me, that's what art does. It speaks to us in some way, and it's a way for us to communicate with others. I was a film photographer. This is how we started deep diving into our relationship, just talking about photography. And he honestly at first didn't believe me that this could be a business. But I work with business owners. I consult people with finance all the time. And I've had my own businesses. And I said, you could try it. Because if you don't try it, you never know. And I tell them all the time with everything I start adding to our plate at VAGF, we have to start. We have to see if it works. If it doesn't, we don't do it anymore. If we just need to tweak it to make it better, all the more greater opportunities for our artists.
How many opportunities are lost because people just never take that first step?
Yes.
There are millions and millions of amazing ideas out there that just get lost because no one ever does anything about it. They never take that first step. And, maybe they do take the first step and they fail originally and then they just give up or they quit. And so, yeah, I think that's a huge component. And the art scene, too, to kind of emphasize one of your points, is a great way to connect with new people. So if you're looking to make connections, whether in the business world or socially, that's a very largely untapped area to go meet new people and influencers at that, right? I mean, people who can influence throughout a completely different world than a lot of us are involved in. And it sounds like y'all kind of came to the art world later. If 2018, 2019 was when you won that first award, it's never too late to get into the art world, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of artists who may have retired from their long careers, and now they have some extra time on their hands, and so they pick up art. Or maybe they already were artists, but now they have more time to dedicate to that.
Or COVID, that definitely brought a lot of artists out.
Right. And we have an artist on the board who goes from one en plein air competition or festival to another all over the state of Texas, all over United States, really. And she just enjoys. Sometimes she's a participant. Sometimes she just looks at other artists and sees what they are able to create. So we have a lot of students who are also artists who, maybe they were doodling, throughout their school years, and they don't really know how good they are. There's a number of them that show regularly in our shows. A couple of years ago, one of the awards in one of our shows was won by a high school student. We don't have an age requirement. We don't put on the label how old or how experienced an artist is. If somebody likes the art, they'll just
like it for the art.
Yeah, they'll like it for the art. So we try to offer those kinds of opportunities to all kinds of people because, in a way, we all have art inside. I come from an artistic background. My dad was a theater actor for many years, so I've been to art openings, and we've had family friends who were painters and sculptors. But I was never a painter or a sculptor. I never actually experienced anything like that, and that's why I'm a photographer. But we all come from different backgrounds, and we all have something inside that wants to come out, and we're just there to provide the opportunity for it.
In the therapeutic aspect that you talked about too, I know at Brain Injury Network, they have a big art program. In fact, they have masks that each of the survivors will paint. And some of them have words, some of them are just paintings, and there's a description underneath it that basically says, hey, this is what this mask means to me in my journey. And they do that because that's very therapeutic, right? To go through and talk about your journey, and to know that anyone can be an artist. You don't have to be good, but you can get your emotions out. You can use it as a way to get your thoughts out, get your emotions out. And that can be anything from, journaling is incredibly popular right now. And that can turn into something, or doodling, as you said, Suad.
I think a lot of that is kind of along the lines that you just mentioned. Whether it's journaling or painting or even sculpting, you create something with your hands, kind of like what Jennifer mentioned earlier. It kind of disconnects us from all the electronics that kind of take over our lives on a daily basis. It's one thing when you take a picture with your phone, or maybe type something, a note to remember, something like that afterwards. However, many researchers have found that that tactile connection of pen to paper or a brush to canvas or something like that is connected to something a little bit more, something deeper within us. So I think the act of creating, physically creating something tangible, is what a lot of artists are drawn to, and what a lot of them try to continue to do. And I think that's kind of that therapeutic aspect. Whether it's just writing a page in a journal or creating a watercolor painting, it's the same type of skills that are involved, in the same type of mental and motor process within us. So I think that's a very important part of the beauty of art and the accessibility of art to a lot of people. And
I want to state that we're the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. Art can come in so many forms.
Sure.
Speaking, orating, speaking is an art. Singing is an art. Flower arranging is an art. You just start, writing is an art. There's so many forms in all arts, and then it brings cross culture, right? So you start learning about other people and where they've been, and it opens up conversations that maybe you wouldn't normally have. When you see a picture of a family up there, and I just meet him, and tell me about what you were thinking there. Now, some artists say, well, stand back and you tell me what it says to you, and then I'll tell you, because I don't want to put my perceived notions on my art. But that, again, is a connection, even if it's with just one person, whether that artist was there or not. So visual arts of the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco is 2D and 3D art. So the 3D art would be mixed media and sculpture art. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we don't have space for a lot of that yet, but we're certainly working toward it, and previous boards have been working toward space. But to me, if we can at least give some type of an outlet for those artists to share, I think that art comes from the heart. And I don't think that we're meant to stay in these skin bodies. We're meant to express ourselves. And we're just giving them an opportunity. And the surrounding communities in all states and cities that we know of in the United States have some sort of arts guild, whether you are quilting or crafting or basket weaving. That's all art. And there are guilds that you can just look up. And a lot of folks who have been here for a while, literally yesterday, had moved here and said, I've been here all this time and didn't even know there was a Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. But were you in the right mindset to participate in your art? No, I really haven't been doing anything for that many years. Well, now that you are, and we're in focus, let us help you get to wherever you choose to be in your art. No one's forcing you to have 100% full-time business in art. There's so many different ways to make an income in selling art, teaching art. A lot of our artists do different workshops, either in their home or they'll rent a space out and they'll teach art at different age groups. And so there's many ways to create income, even full-time income, depending on what your strategy is and how much income you need. And I feel like we can definitely support that.
And so if someone wanted to figure out when the different classes were going to be, whether it be the marketing or the patent attorney or whatever, where would they go to find that?
So we have a lot of that on our website, vagf.org. So we have the .org, don't forget that, because we're a nonprofit. VAGF stands for Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. So we'll have an events page where we have a calendar. We have links where people can apply or submit for one of the for some of the shows. We have information about upcoming monthly meetings. So that's the first place I would recommend people try. But then right after that, you can connect with us on social media. We're very active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just look for Visual Arts Guild of Frisco. Usually it's all one word, just kind of compress it all, and you'll find us on those three major platforms. And we post pretty regularly, not just posts, but also stories about what's going on, some of the events that we've been to. We like to support other artists, our members as well. So if they have a solo show somewhere, or if they want some kind of an award or recognition, we want to brag on them as well. So we have a newsletter that goes out the first week of every month where we kind of compile that information and share them with over 1,000 of our subscribers. So newsletter, website, social media, that's kind of where we would start. And
we have our monthly meeting at the Gallery 8680. The Gallery 8680 is at 8680 Main Street in Frisco.
There you go.
It is a part-time nonprofit gallery, and it is also a part-time church. On Sunday evenings, they have a church service. It's called True North Church. But for years, since 2009, they've been supportive of Visual Arts Guild of Frisco because they are a weekend gallery. So they'll book a solo show, or they'll have a contest with a theme, and folks in the arts world, whether you're a member of our group or not, does not matter. They're just one of our supporters, the Gallery 8680. So they might have the red show or the red, white, and blue show. Right. And so you're going to submit art that is in that color scheme, but it's still open theme. And then they'll have 3 weekends in a month, a Friday, Saturday, where you can come in and see the art and enjoy it and buy it. And at the end of that 3 week, typically it's 3 weeks, sometimes a month, you can take the art home. So it's one thing for consumers and lovers and supporters and collectors of art to know that if you go in a gallery, you can go buy the art, and if it's on the wall, you can probably take it home that day if you don't need it shipped to you for some reason. But when you're in an exhibition, a showcase, there's a theme. You can't take a piece until the exhibition is over. And so our Sweetwater's showcase, our Frisco Dental Studio showcase, and our Texas Title Frisco showcase all have themes. Love and Bloom, travel, and the Texas Frisco theme at Texas Title.
We change the themes from show
regularly.
to show.
Yes,
so these are just
these
the
are the
current
3
ones
current themes right now. So you can go in now and you can love on a piece, take a picture with the piece, tag the artist,
vote for it,
email us if you want more information, and you can purchase it right now. It just cannot come down until the end of the exhibition because it ruins the theme or there's a hole in the theme.
Right.
And that's the idea of, we had not had an opportunity to do themes like a gallery. We didn't have space for it, a regular space for it. So the Gallery 8680 opens up for us the 3rd Monday of every month for our monthly member meetings. It is complimentary for all of our members to attend. They don't have to RSVP, just show up. We have refreshments, we have seating. It's a pretty large venue. They can view the art that is in the gallery at the time. Most of the time there's a show going on. There might be 2 or 3 months out of the whole year that the walls were completely blank. And then we offer anyone from the community to come visit, but we do ask for a $10 donation to cover the food, the speaker fee, and so forth if you're not a member. Most people want to join after that, and most people want to donate more than $10 to the arts because of that. But
our membership is $45 for a year. You get, as a member, you get free submission to all of those partner galleries. You get discounted submissions in some other shows that do have a submission fee. and you have free access to those monthly meetings. So, we think it's a pretty good
It's
value.
a bargain.
Yeah, it's a pretty good
And
value.
if you're a student or a senior, it's only $25 a year.
Right.
And if you're a family member, say you're a husband and wife or a mother, daughter, and you're both artists wanting to submit, then it's only $75 a year. We do a family of two. We want to make it affordable. However, if you're trying to run a nonprofit, you still have to have money to run the nonprofit. You're not always guaranteed the grants. You're not always guaranteed an art sale. And so we do have to have some of that membership donor driven, and that our actual receptions, we ask for sponsors. Sure, you can be cash or in-kind sponsors, raffle sponsors. We can make some small money on raffles. We're not gambling. We're not doing the gambling.
Yeah, make sure the IRS doesn't catch on to
Right,
it.
very small. And our nonprofit, we would like to grow. We want to grow, but we've been able to sustain it even through COVID, through a year's worth of Zoom meetings. We kept the monthly meeting and education going on Zoom, and those were free for anybody. They're recorded, and they've already been all loaded, I think, or most of them on Facebook, if anyone wants to go back.
We reposted a few of them. We have meetings from a couple of years ago that people still enjoyed watching. Many months afterwards. So.
And those speakers gave us permission to do that. Most of the time, the speakers that we have, they get paid to do speaking and workshops. We pay them for their time. So a part of the donation and income goes to pay for those speakers. So we cannot, can't we just Zoom every meeting? No, because some of that information is proprietary. They want you to be there in person. You can take a few pictures, maybe a little bit of video during it, but you're basically going to be selling their stuff. So we can't really take that away.
They're trying to make a living off of it.
And not only that, but we like people being in the same room together, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. So currently there are no plans to broadcast these live meetings like we used to do with Zoom, although people kind of got used to that during those years. But, we've been in person for since January of 2022. So at this point, people know that. And we get, 50, 60 people crammed into that room at the Gallery 8680. For some of our Meet the Artists events or some of the bigger receptions that we have, we get 100, 200 people who show up from all walks of life, friends, families, art lovers of all kinds. We do have an audience in Frisco, and we're trying to grow it, and it's great to see that kind of support for the arts from the citizens in Frisco and people who live in areas around.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for both of you being here today.
Absolutely.
One last question. Suad, I think she's deferring to you per our previous discussion. 3 favorite books.
3 favorite books. So if you asked me that 20 years ago, I would have said that if I were to bring one book with me to the deserted island, it would be Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. If you asked me that 5 to 10 years ago, I would say it was Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Is a fantastic, really humorous writer. And then, so you have a little bit of fiction and a little bit of science fiction, I guess, and some fiction, some nonfiction as well. So I will add 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. It's a really accessible book about self-development, and 5-Second Rule is a really easy to understand and easy to implement. Yeah. So I would recommend that as well.
All right. Any books to add?
Just the book that you read to me.
Yes.
You recorded. It was fantastic.
That's right. I did read into a recorder a book by Bill Bryson on Australia, because Jennifer is obsessed with Australia. That's the #1 item on her bucket list.
It's amazing.
We hope to go pretty soon. The book is in a sunburned country, and so I actually recorded an audiobook for the audience of one, because she drives around meeting clients all across DFW, and so I put it on a USB drive so that she can listen to it in the car.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you both for being here, and thank you to everyone out there listening to us. We will see you next time on the Driven Crowd Podcast.